Hey guys, my name is Massimo, and welcome to another episode of Sunday Mailbox. This is a video series where you, the viewer, can submit your gaming or Battlefield-related questions, and then I will give my humble opinion on them. To get the formats out of the way real quick, if you would like to submit your own question that could be featured in an upcoming episode, you can do so by leaving a comment down below, or by sending me a Facebook and Twitter message. The first question for today comes from Danny on PC, and it is, what do you think about free DLC being paid with in-game sponsorship, like an advertisement of Coca-Cola on a billboard that's literally inside the game? This is actually a really cool concept and something that I wish a developer would explore, but it's also kind of limited in its scope and what games can actually do something like this. First of all, it's going to depend on the setting of the video game. If I'm running around in Battlefield, it makes sense to see a Pepsi commercial or an advertisement on the side of the wall when I'm on Operation Metro running through the subway. I would actually say that that's not going to break the immersion. That's actually probably going to add a further layer of immersion because that mirrors reality. When I'm in a metro, I would assume that I would see some advertisements, and to see ones that I see every single day, I don't think that would be a bad thing. On the flip side though, as soon as I see one of these billboards on Star Wars Battlefront, that absolutely would ruin the gameplay. That would ruin the experience. It would be immersion breaking, and I would not want that whatsoever. Another thing we have to consider is that the player base needs to be large enough where these advertisements are actually going to be making enough money where they can use that money to pay for the DLCs. I don't think a lot of people realize how many views you need to even get a little bit of money. Like, every eyeball on an advertisement that you watch on YouTube, for example, gives that YouTube content creator like maybe a cent or less. It is insignificant. And so if you are an indie developer and you're trying to go down this business model where you want to bring in advertisers that you can have maybe a billboard here and there, if you only have like 1,000 people playing your game, I don't know, even though it's every single day, even though they're seeing the same thing every single day, I don't know if that's going to generate enough money to be able to create new content that's going to be able to sustain and pay for the development of that content. And so the only way that I could see this happening is if it's a large player base like Battlefield or a huge AAA first-person shooter. And so if you can't tell, we're getting our scope of what games can actually do this is getting smaller and smaller. And I think it's for this very reason why I haven't seen any developers really go down this path. The other thing is that I think that if we did see this, this would just be something that the publishers would be pushing in. Like, they'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, we'll put ads in Operation Metro, but it's not going to pay for the DLCs. It's just going to be advertisements. It's literally just going to be there so that we can generate more money. That's what I'm scared about. And so while I really like the concept of it, because who doesn't want free DLC? It keeps the community together, it keeps the game going, the longevity, and the player base is going to be sustainable. That's all fantastic, but it's because of those reasons and those limiting factors why I don't think that many developers have even tried something like this, and why it may never happen in the future. The next question comes from Jonathan, and it is, do you think that DICE will implement a Titan mode in Star Wars Battlefront? Well, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility, because if I remember right, and my memory is a little hazy, so I might be wrong here, but one of the reasons why a lot of people wanted space combat in the new Star Wars game was because back in Battlefront 2, there was a game mode where you could fly around up in space in a TIE fighter or an X-Wing, duke it out up in the sky, but then if you wanted to go into close quarter combat, you wanted to play as an infantry player, you could actually board into the other team's Star Destroyer and kind of wreak havoc with your blaster. It was really, really cool. And to have that type of gameplay and that type of interesting dynamic in the new Star Wars game would be incredible. And while I realize that this isn't going to be possible in the Star Wars Battlefront because they have said there isn't going to be space combat, if they brought it down into the atmosphere and they made it so that there was just a giant ship on each team's side where you were trying to board on into it and get inside to blow it up, that could be amazing. It was a hell of a lot of fun back in Battlefield 2142. It was really cool to see it reintroduced into Battlefield 4 with carrier assault. And while I know some people would probably complain, it's like, oh, they're just making it another Battlefield game mode, at its core, it fits the theme flawlessly. Like, it makes a lot of sense, and I think in general, once people played it, I think they would be right on board. The one issue that we do run into, though, is that smaller player counts. DICE has said that they're only bringing it up to 40. All of their game modes are going to be 40 and less players. And while I know some people were upset by that originally because they thought it wasn't going to be epic enough, I mean, if you play Walker Assault, you know that it's already epic. It's plenty chaotic. But to have basically a Titan mode where you're splitting up the player base, where you have some people going for the ship and then people down on the ground, that inherently splits up how many people that you're going to be fighting against. If you're on defense and you're defending the ship, you're probably only going to be versing maybe 10 people. If you're down on the ground, you're also only going to be versing 10 people. This is a game mode that is meant to be epic, and to have fewer and fewer people because it splits it up and not having 64 like they do in the Battlefield series, I think this might be one of the reasons why DICE doesn't decide to actually implement a game mode like this. It just doesn't have enough people to get you right back into the action and have that epic Star Wars gameplay. And so while I love the game mode, I think it would fit flawlessly because they have limited themselves to that 40 player count. I would be surprised if they did decide to add it on in. The next one comes from Zach, and it is, so I was thinking, I haven't seen any Levolution on the new community map. Yes, it's been made by the community, but it should have something crazy. It's what Battlefield is known for. Maybe a stray artillery shell slams into the waterfall, knocking rocks onto the temple and destroying everything. I actually find it kind of amusing that it seems like DICE is slowly phasing out Levolution. I mean, they may not be entirely, but if you look at the past DLCs, every single one maybe has one major Levolution moment, and all of the others are very lackluster. Final Stand, for example, I think the biggest impactful one is where you're playing on Giants of Corellia and you can break in the dome. On Hammerhead, I guess you could say that you can take out the ice so that tanks can't go down the center. Hangar 21 has the fireball, but that doesn't really change the map at all. Operation Whiteout has nothing other than a storm. Look, Pearl Market's got nothing. Propaganda has a train. I mean, that's not really anything. Lumphany Gardens, the biggest one, that has the biggest one. But you look back at all of the most recent DLCs and they just don't really have that draw that DICE was clearly going for when they were first advertising for Battlefield 4. And so now that we're getting the new community map alongside Dragon Valley sometime in the unforeseeable future, it doesn't look like they're adding Levolution to them whatsoever. Actually, you know what? I take that back. You can take out the bridges in Dragon Valley, but that's not really Levolution. That's not a skyscraper falling on over. So I retract that. No real Levolution on those maps, and I think it might just be for the simple fact that they may find it to be too gimmicky. They'd rather focus on just creating a solid, well-balanced map from the very beginning and not trying to juggle so many things where they're trying to create two different well-balanced versions of the map. And so while your suggestion sounds really cool, having artillery shells slamming into the rock of the waterfall and having everyone down below being crushed by the debris and then changing the way that you approach that objective, like that sounds really cool. But I think at the end of the day, I don't know if DICE just wants to spend the time to create a separate version of that part of the map. They would rather make it well balanced from the very beginning and just have an overall better map from the very start. But yeah, guys, that is about it for today's Sunday Mailbox. I hope you enjoyed. As always, if you would like to submit your own question that could be featured in an upcoming episode, you can do so by leaving a comment down below or by sending me a Facebook and Twitter message. But until tomorrow, guys, have a good one and take it easy.